I was listening to an exhortation on godly ambition. It was very, very good. And he brought up Moses. And if you think about all that God had done in and through Moses, and he gets to the mountain and he says, Lord, I've seen all of these things that you've done. I just simply want, though, more of your glory. Mm-hmm. Show me more of you. And that is the ambition we're talking about, right? Because it would have been easy for Moses, even like when God was angry with the people and they built the calf, and he was like, I'm going to wipe them out. You know what I mean? And
yes,
I'm going to make a great name out of you.
Yes. It would be so tempting.
It would be tempting to be like, Lord, you know how I've served you. I've been faithful. Go right ahead and do it. Yes, make my name great. But that's not godly ambition. He was out for God's name to be magnified.
Yeah, because then it's like, well, the people in Egypt will hear about this.
Yep.
And then they're going to think that you don't take care of your children.
Yeah, you were not able
to save them. You weren't able to help them. And so, Lord, please don't, for your glory. And so I think that's where people that are actually striving to obey God, like he said, to disciple the nation. So it's like the whole world. That's a big duty. And a big goal. So we need to get to work. And it starts with, how do you be ambitious in the day-to-day for the Lord's glory? When you're doing something for the Lord, then you have a duty before God to not give up and to not settle. And then, all of a sudden, your mission is until you die.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Feminine Glory Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Lydia Edmonds, and I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Esther Edmonds.
Hi, guys.
And we are here to talk about ambition. Esther,
dun, dun, dun.
Why are we here to talk about ambition? Godly ambition, to be specific.
Because it keeps coming up amongst our circles, so we feel like we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
It keeps coming up in the family. It keeps coming up on the podcast. It keeps coming up in all sorts of places.
Yeah, and I think
just the world in
just
general.
Before we get too far, I think it would be wise to clarify that I think it'd be wise to do this from now on, because there's plenty of people that confuse a lot of people by not making clear who they're talking to. And I would love to just let everyone note, we're talking to Christians, Christians that are in fact in God's word, right?
Yes.
So not just a Christian in name only, those who are reading God's word, who are praying, and who do go to church on more of a regular basis. And it's not just like, I'm a part of such and such church, but I only watch online. That's not who we're talking to.
The people that actually want to obey their Bible,
but are confused.
Yes.
Or have swallowed more lies from the world than perhaps they have noticed. So that's who we're talking to. Christians, women who we need to be involved in the culture war. We're here to target Christian women. So
Yeah, so I think many people view ambition as a bad thing.
Why?
Well, you have the Julius Caesar. Brutus says he was ambitious, and sure, he is, and so you have the classic, ambition is bad. Ambition is a bad thing. Christians shouldn't strive for ambition. But Lennox brought this up in our interview with him. And it's come up in different areas, and especially regarding women and ambition, is that I think a lot of people view ambition still as an inherently bad thing. Because they think that seeking any kind of glory like that, striving for something ambitious, striving for big goals, is actually a sin. Because it's not like Christians should they should be being servants, and servants aren't ambitious.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think they oftentimes equate it to, correct me if I'm not making sense, but I think a lot of people view ambition, and especially with women, in regards to, if you are being ambitious, you're inherently seeking your own glory. But really, that's not what ambition is or means. And ambition, the actual word, like when you look at the actual word of what ambition means, it's not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I think to play off of what you're saying, I think they think that women in particular should not be ambitious because we don't have in our minds a third category of what actual biblical femininity looks like. Mm-hmm. So we see you have feminism and tradwife.
Right.
We have no third category for a woman that is actually strong and courageous in a feminine way, in a way that's actually glorifying to God, that's ambitious in a way. So we see the ambition in feminists and we're like, oh no, bad. And so then we're just going to pull back. So then the tradwives that we talked about on our episode with our mom, that you're going to pull back and view the home as a place to retreat to instead of a place to double down and fight harder. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, so like Douglas Wilson has a really great blog and Mablog on this. I believe it was called Ambition and Plowing in Hope.
Okay.
But he was talking about how most people, we train people up, especially younger people, to what their goal is just to work a 9 to 5 and for 40 years of their life. And you stay in that position. Like as long as we can get the kids to where they can actually have a job, have a good job, and stay in that job, then they're good. Like we've accomplished, like as parents, we are riding high, you know, and if you do believe in some form of a Christianity, then it's okay. Well, if then we can get them married, have a 9 to 5 job, have their own house. You know what I mean? Like that we've accomplished as parents. We have great kids. And I'm not denying that you don't have good kids. I'm just saying that, but we're not actually training them to be ambitious and to strive for more than that. And I think it's the same thing translating into women. So it's like, okay, so then in the reform circles, or in people that are actually reading their Bibles and they see, they're thinking, okay, so I do think that me as a wife, my primary focus should be the home. Right? It's not saying that, again, that you can't, we've talked about this before, that it's not saying that you can't work outside of your home, but it's like your main focus should be on your home. And I think Christine Cohen even referred to it as ladders on a, or as rungs on a ladder. Mm. And so it's like the first priority is to God, to husband, to family. Mm. Those should be the top 3. And so, but then as far as women goes, when you then translate that to a woman's job and say you do believe that a woman's primary focus should be the home, then you translate that into, so what does then the 9 to 5 look like? Okay, well then it's make meals, do the dishes, clean house, done. You know what I mean? And so it's like, so that is the 9 to 5, essentially, like do this until the kids are grown and then we'll go travel. Do this until the kids are, like, you work the 9 to 5 job until you're old enough to retire. Done. Work is done. Now let's just enjoy this world. Let's not try, you know what I mean? Like, let's go on trips. Let's go on, and there's nothing wrong with taking trips, but that's what we're striving for is, and I think that there's a funny saying around, like, going to, you're actually aiming, the mindset is aim to retire.
Oh, aspire to retire.
Yeah. And so it's like, we're working our way to, I just want to get my kids graduated, married, and they're in a career and done. Check. I'm done. You know, like, Lord, take me now. I'm good. I have accomplished my duty here on earth. And so that is the very mediocre mindset. And that, I think that's where Christians think that's a safe bet. That's a safe, like, if we do that, that's a very safe goal for me.
And you can see, and I sadly, a lot of women, there's a lot of, like, where this is coming from, their ideas being pushed online about what women should be doing. And we really there's a lot of Christians that maybe at first were well-intentioned, but I think now have really caused a lot of confusion about women's roles. And it really has, if you listen to what they're saying, has been summed up to putting dinner on the table is your highest priority for each and every day, and then almost like in life. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, we center our day around dinner. Now, I love dinner. I really enjoy sitting around the table with our family talking, but it's almost like it can never be, like, in our family, we've had a couple nights recently that have been crazy, and it's like, okay, we're doing something like hot dogs and french fries.
Yep.
You know,
or it's mom makes dinner and then everyone is just like, eat when you have time and then go off and do what else you need to do.
And so now we have stressed before, I will stress again here, the importance, why our family is the way it is by God's grace and through our parents, their faithfulness to his word. And then also a big part of that was family table fellowship.
And that is not the norm, though. Like the quick grab and go lunch or dinner is not the norm.
But so I think food is important. I think it is an art form women need to tackle and aspire to be great in, that they need to be excellent in, glorify God in. But to say that is your highest calling for each day is a misplaced ambition. It's a lack of ambition, actually, is what it is. Not misplaced even. It's just a lack of ambition to say that you have fulfilled all of the God-given duties you could have ever done today by laundry and getting dinner on the table.
So what do you think then would be, so I hear you, and I think a lot of times when people say that, one of the common things that people will do is that they then say, they dog on then what's the bad idea of ambition, and then they don't actually, or the feminist movement, but they don't actually provide what would be then the right response, what would be something that we actually need to be striving for, something tangible that's biblical that we need to be. So what would you say then is the biblical definition of ambition?
A biblical definition of ambition would be,
what should Christians be striving for, and then particularly women?
Okay. It's an ambition that seeks God's glory first and foremost. So I do the things I do because I'm out for God's name to be magnified. I'm out for God's name to be known to this group. I'm out to share the gospel with a group that does not yet know the Lord. I'm out for advancing and building the kingdom. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes it's, you hear this phrase a lot, and I think it'd also be good to touch on it here because this is a big portion of ambition, is the idea of a culture war. So, in the beginning, God created man and woman, right?
Yep.
And it was be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it. So there's a work. And in that, it was a call to imitate God, because God, who has always been, always will be, from the beginning, Alpha and Omega, he, out of nothing, created this world that we still don't even know all of the processes that go on. It's just absolutely incredible. And I'm witnessing and realizing that more based on the things I'm listening to. We're coming to the season where you're things are blooming, and across the room from me right now I'm looking at just God's creation brought indoors, right? So in flowers, in the form of flowers. And so just seeing all that God has created and what he's established. So in the Dominion Mandate, and then again in the Great Commission, God was calling us to imitate him in his ambition. And this also ties into what we've talked about on an earlier episode with being bought by beauty himself, holiness himself, justice himself. And so you've been bought by someone who is ambitious himself. So you then are supposed to be ambitious. So in the beginning, so there's that. God created man and woman. God could have, and I'm bringing this up because this is also where people think that in a way that they're, I don't know if limiting women's ambition is a right way to phrase it, but they're basically teaching women that they should not be ambitious.
Yeah.
And saying they shouldn't be involved in the culture war. And
be content with just doing the daily
bare minimum
duties.
Yeah.
Well.
And so my thing with this is, in the beginning, when God created male and female, he could have easily said, I am going to create two men and a woman because her only duty is to produce more progeny for one of the men, and then also just to feed them, to sustain them, so that they can go take dominion. But God created a man and a woman and said, extend the sacred ground that I've created in the Garden of Eden everywhere together. That is an ambitious calling, and it's something that God calls families to, he calls couples to, he calls individual men and women to. And so you can't, and that dominion, although food is a big part of that, is not limited to, putting dinner on the table isn't necessarily just each and every day, and that's all you do, and that's all you're striving for, isn't charging the gates of hell, necessarily. Although it does build culture, and it establishes, it creates children, right? You're shaping children who will then also go do that. You have to be charging at the gates of hell every day with what you do.
And it's not, so you are charging the gates of hell with it, but that's not all that you could charge the gates of hell with.
That's a much better way of putting it, yeah.
Would that be a...
Yeah, I think that's a very fair way of putting it. So the goal is godly dominion and discipling the nations. Mm-hmm. And so the home plays a huge part of that. Like, that's something I think also when you see women that have a lack of ambition, part of it is that they don't understand the importance of the home. Like, in the home, you have an opportunity to reverse the curse. Mm-hmm. So when it talks about, I think it's in Timothy, where it's going through the woman was deceived first, and then that she would be saved through childbearing, right? Mm-hmm. The point there is that God promised in Genesis 3:15 the seed of the woman would crush the head of the serpent. That's how she's saved. It's an opportunity to reverse the curse. So it is important. But if the mom and the women in the home are not being ambitious, if moms in the home are not being ambitious, you're not going to produce children that then will go out and be ambitious. They're going to pick up on your lack of ambition. Yep. And that's what's troubling.
Yeah, because I think that when you put an overemphasis on just the daily duties that are expected of a woman, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When you put an overemphasis on that and say, and I think this goes back to why it's so important to identify who you're actually talking to, is that when you put an overemphasis on women, and especially Christian women, need to be at home, hot meals, laundry done, clean houses, we need to be assuming it's like, okay, yes, I hear you, but at some point, this goes back to, when the preacher just every Sunday preaches the gospel, and I love the gospel, there's nothing wrong with the gospel, right. But we also need practical advice as Christians through God's word on how to live. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like, yes, I'm saved, now what?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, praise the Lord, he saved me, but now what?
Right. And
now I'm alive. Now I need nourishment. How am I to live?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so I think that it goes back to now women. It's like, okay, good job. Now you do believe that you're, that you should be making meals for your family. You do believe that you should be doing the laundry. You do believe that, okay, then you're like, but a man can do that on his own. Right. Like, he doesn't need a woman to do that. He can do that in his bachelor pad. Yeah. You're like, he can cook his meals. There are some really good guys out there that are cooks. And so, like, they can make really good meals. And there are a lot of men out there that do their laundry. There are a lot of men out there that take care of their homes or take care of their apartments or whatever. And so it's like, we have to believe then that a woman's job has to be more than just doing the bare minimums that are our duties. Yes, I'm not saying they're not our duties, but I'm saying that now, at this point, your audience needs to hear, okay, so then what now? I am doing that daily, so what do I need to be doing now? Why? Because of God's glory. And so I think that a lot of times when people then say that women just need to do these duties, check off the boxes, then you're done, a lot of women then take that as an excuse then to be lazy.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? And so then it's like, okay, well, I've now done the bare minimums, and so I'm done. I've done my wifely duties. I'm a good wife. I'm good. I'm good to go. And that simply just can't be the case, because then you, again, and I don't think that you should base rules off of exceptions, but then I want to say, what do you do with the singles and the widows, right? That don't now, or the empty nesters. So the children are out, so now it's just you and your husband, or if you don't have a husband, now you have a home. And so it's like, what do you do? What do you do as a woman? Right. And so you've got to be striving for more. And so then what are you striving for? What's the ambitious goal? And it's like you're saying, like, and it's like Lennox talked about in our interview with him, is that it's take dominion, subdue the earth, and preach the gospel to the nations. And so how do you do that? Well, it's by looking around you and seeing what talents has the Lord given you, how you can bless your community and bring glory and honor to him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe you're really good. And before I say this, I do want to say, and part of how you take dominion is through raising up arrows to send out. But you as the mother have to know how to train them of course with the help of your husband, but you have to know how to train them to interact with this world through a biblical worldview, how they're going to discern the truth from lies, how they're going to, all along the way, you should have been training them, and then also bringing them then to where it's less, I'm teaching you to your face, and now you're going to come with me. So it's like we've moved now to almost like an army, to a line formation, right? And we're all going out together. And of course, it'll get to a point where they're going to be on their own doing things, but you have to, that's part of the ambition I'm talking about too. But we don't get there through moms living for the nap time where their 5-year-old, 6-year-old is still taking a nap, like a 2-hour nap. Right. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. We're not taking dominion by I can't wait till the kids go to bed so I can finally do what I want to do, or you know what I mean?
Watch this show.
Yeah.
Well, it's the Reformation and the founding of America, all like big events in history. Those didn't happen because of mediocre people.
Yeah.
That were just content to do the bare minimums. You know what I mean? Like that, yeah. Change in the world happened because there were people that were doing unordinary things. And so they were being ambitious. And why? It's because they had a set goal in mind. And then they were accomplishing that through discipline, day in and day out, hard grind work that oftentimes no one saw.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so then it's thinking, okay, so then what could you, have you ever thought, if you just take a single person, for instance, we'll start there, and say, okay, well, what are my talents? Ask the Lord to show you, God, I want to do something for you. Show me something that would guide me, direct me, and cause me to walk uprightly and to do good works before you for your kingdom and for your glory. And most people can find some form of a talent that they're really good at.
Yeah.
And then when you do, okay, well then do you have a desire? Do you see a need? How can you bless your community? So have an ambitious goal, right? Strive for something that seems a crazy goal. And then break it down day by day and start working on it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or it's for parents, think through when we talk about, it's funny, when we talk to parents and sometimes it's thinking through, okay, what do you want out of your kids? What do you want them to be? What do you hope that they'll grow up to be? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that when you strive for, I know a great example. I heard that Lennox Califungwa and his wife created a educational statement on what kind of an education they wanted their children to get.
Oh, yeah.
And
I
why.
remember this. Yeah.
And I think that's a wonderful idea. He set the goal for the family, right? And now they can accomplish that goal. So what is going to get them towards that goal? And they want movers and shakers. They want leaders. And so that, I think, having a vision for the future of what do you actually want out of this world? Do you know what I mean? Thinking through multi-generational, what do you want from your grandkids? Start with that now. Start doing that now. Start working on that.
Yeah.
Do you want faithfulness for your grandchildren? It's okay, so then what do you need to be doing now in order to get faithful grandchildren? So we're not even just talking about your own kids now. We're talking about grandkids.
Well, because I know you've brought this up before on the podcast, but that is the test. When your children can repeat, right? You raised faithful children. Can they then repeat the pattern? Because you see all the time throughout Scripture, especially in the Kings, where it's you have one great faithful king, although, of course, no one was perfect. But then his son failed. His son failed. And then finally someone good comes up again. And so you're right. That is the test of, and that's ambition. That is, Lord, I want your glory to 1,000 generations. Yep. And we were even talking about this, because I was listening to an exhortation on godly ambition. It was very, very good. And even if you think about he brought up Moses. And if you think about all that God had done in and through Moses, and he gets to the mountain and he says, Lord, I've seen all of these things that you've done. all the things that you've done. I just simply want, though, more of your glory. Show me more of you. And that is the ambition we're talking about, right? Because it would have been easy for Moses, even like when God was angry with the people and they built the calf, and he was like, I'm going to wipe them out. You know what I mean? And
yes,
I'm
Lord.
going to make a great name out of you.
Yes. It would be so tempting.
It would be tempting to be like, Lord, you know how I've served you. I've been faithful. Go right ahead and do it. Yes, make my name great. But that's not godly ambition. He was out for God's name to be magnified.
Yeah, because then it's like, well, the people in Egypt will hear about this.
Yep.
And then they're going to think that you don't take care of your children.
Yeah, you were not able to
save them. You weren't able to
everyone.
help them. And so, Lord, please don't, for your glory. And so I think that's where people that are actually striving to obey God, like he said to disciple the nation. So it's like the whole world. It would have been very easy for Christ to just seek his own vain glory and to seek the easy thing and to just have be a conquering king in Jerusalem only. Because that's what the people were expecting, was him to, topple over the Romans,
right,
and take the place of Caesar. And so
like a strictly political move,
right? But then the Lord's like, no, I want the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I don't just want this nation.
Yeah.
I want all the nations, and
Yes.
I'm going to get all the nations.
Yes. And so you're in this wonderful kingdom, and you are working for the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And so it's, what are your marching orders? And the marching orders are, again, like you said, it's the Great Commission and the Dominion Mandate. And so that's a big duty. And a big goal. So we need to get to work. And it starts with, how do you be ambitious in the day-to-day for the Lord's glory? And when it's then for the Lord's glory, the interesting thing about it is when it's just for your glory, then we settle for so small.
We do.
We settle for really little, and as long as
$1 million, Lord, would be
that
fantastic.
Would be fantastic, but then and then we also give up easier.
Yeah.
But when you're doing something for the Lord, then you have a duty before God to not give up and to not settle. And then all of a sudden, your mission is until you die.
And it does, I do want to put the emphasis for the ladies out there. It does start, if you have a family, if you have a husband, it does start in your home. Like, but it has to overflow. If it's not overflowing, I'd say something's probably going awry, because it's not like God's glory can stay boxed up in your home. Right. Like, you want the atmosphere that you've created, if it is in fact a one that seeks to honor and glorify God and return back to God, sanctify the things that he has given you, then it can't stay cooped up in the four walls of your home. It has to overflow, and it needs to overflow. And that's the ambition I think we're talking about, is that what a lot of Christians are confused about is they're thinking kind of like it just needs to stay here.
Yep.
And we're saying, no, that needs to go out to the nations.
Yep.
Like, this culture, and if thousands of Christians did that across the nation, and you have this beautiful aroma, and of course it's going to be different in certain ways. No family is the same, no couple is the same, no men and women are the same. And so it's going to be different in certain ways, but if we're all tethered to Christ, if we're all anchored in Christ, God does amazing things in and through his people when they're out for his glory.
Yep. And I think it goes back to, how do you actually view the home? Do you view the home as a vacation spot where you're just supposed to rest?
Yeah.
Like, the husband comes home from work, he sits down on the couch, he rests. The children, as soon as they're schooled or whatever, or they come back from school, they sit down, they rest. And so they view the home as a vacation spot. So I'm in the vacation spot all day long. And so this is my vacation spot. And so I'm going to treat it as such. And I'm going to, just enjoy my day with,
We're going to have slow, simple mornings,
Yeah.
just like when we're on vacation.
Yeah. We're going to go out every morning for coffee on the front porch, looking at the scenic view. And we're going to have, a slow and steady quiet time. And, and it's just like, that's not life. And there's nothing wrong with those things.
But if that's your everyday.
Right. And if you have all day long to just at your leisure to do whatever you want, then there's a problem there. You're not actually accomplishing much. You're just living.
Yeah.
You're just a consumer then. You're not a producer. The home is supposed to be a productive place. It's supposed to be where, and I've heard this phrase where women are economy builders. Mm. And so there, if you look at the Proverbs 31 woman, she's got a full-on economy going there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so, and it's all working together. Like, so she makes clothes for her family for the winter. So she's got the winter in mind. You know what I mean? So she's thinking ahead. She's being smart. She's bringing her, her food from afar. Yep. And so and she's selling her merchandise. She's buying land. And so if you think, and then even with Katie Luther, if you think about what she was doing, like these are women that are being productive. They're building economies. They're shaping culture.
And if you look at also, I feel like a common denominator with those women, if you think about it too, is that they have something to offer. Mm-hmm. So you're bringing something to the table to offer to a husband, a man, when he asks for your hand in marriage. You have something, a gift, talent, skill sets that I've been living on mission, you've been living on mission, and I really like your mission, and I have skills that I can bring to aid that. Mm-hmm. Let's join forces and let's conquer the world together. Like, let's do it. And so you have to have something to offer. Yeah. You have to have something to offer to your kids. You have to have something to then offer to the world, like, and teach your kids then to do the same, because if you don't have something to then offer to a husband, to your kids, you're not leaving a legacy where then they're going to have something to offer. Now, God in his grace works through situations, but ladies, we should really be striving to have something to offer to the world.
But when the ambitious move is just to, and I think a lot of, and especially in Christian Reform circles, where a lot of women fall into this trap of then marriage is the goal, marriage is the mission, marriage is the ambitious thing to strive for. And it's even with the men as well. It's like the woman is the mission.
Oh, yeah.
And so then you have, okay, the mission is accomplished, man, woman gets together, mission accomplished, and then all of a sudden they're like standing around, what do we do now?
Yeah.
You're like, well, that wasn't ever the ambitious goal there. It was, and I think Sinclair Ferguson put this beautifully. I can't remember the exact sermon title, but we'll find it and we'll put it in the link in the description. But because it was such a phenomenal sermon on marriage. And he was talking about a godly marriage is when one man and one woman realize that they can accomplish far more together than they ever could apart.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I think that needs to be, if you get married, when women get married, when men get married, the reasoning should be because I realized that I could be way more ambitious with this guy. Like the goal then shifted. Like I had a goal in mind of what I wanted to do, and I realized that I could accomplish it far better if I joined him and we did it together. And I think that's where a lot of times people view, like the women, they're like what they bring to the table is, well, I can make babies for you.
Your name will be continued through me.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And it's like, and so then but then it's like, well, most women can do that. So why should I marry you? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, why you? And so it's one of those things where I think that when you are content in Christ and you are actually striving to obey Christ and Christ is on the top rung of your ladder, then all of a sudden you realize that if you can't have children, if you don't get married, if you get married and then there's, maybe the mission changed, like maybe your husband, maybe he had a job shift, or maybe he had a different goal. Maybe you know what I mean? Like whatever happens, you were firmly planted in Christ. You weren't planted in, or if you get married and your husband dies, like an Elizabeth Elliot, it's not then, oh, what do I do now? My mission is over. You know what I mean? Like, what am I even for now? But then you see, like, especially with Elizabeth Elliot, she clearly bought into the mission.
Yeah.
And so then when her husband dies, it was, okay, next man up. You know what I mean? Like, I'll step into that now. My husband was in front of me. My husband got murdered. my turn now. And this was our mission. This was our goal together. This was our ambitious goal. And we're going to do it.
Well, because it was also, I would say, or would you say it's was geared towards ambition in and through that obedience. Like that's what the Lord called us to.
Right. Yes.
So that's us being obedient yet ambitious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is what they believed that the Lord had called them to do, and so they were doing it, and so she was going to fulfill that, but it wasn't because her mission was gym.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Her mission was preach the gospel to the Auca Indians.
Right. That brings up a great point. I finally made it back to Chesterton. I'm getting to indulge in Chesterton again. I'm very excited about it. Anyway, so I picked up Orthodoxy was going to be my next book because that's the one so many people talk about. And I was like, I just have to see what this is about. And it seemed really good. And so, but I come to find out heretics and Orthodoxy are a pair. So heretics, I guess Chesterton got complaints about it was a lot about the bad without kind of the good side and solutions or something like that. So then he wrote Orthodoxy as kind of the good side. And so I was like, well, I'll start with heretics then, and then I'll jump over to Orthodoxy. And so
very wise move.
Anyway, I'm reading heretics right now. And he was talking about this. There's so many things that play into it, so I'll try not to explain everything to everyone and bore everyone. But he was talking about this idea of people, and much like Elizabeth Landis brought this up too, we get stuck on issues, all these individual things. So we talk about efficiency, we talk about education, these very specific things in politics, all these issues, without actually talking about the grander scheme of things. So we try to fix those without talking about the grander scheme of things of actually what is good, and then worldview within that. And so and everything becomes practical this, practical that. And so it's all of these, like, how do we fix all these little things without having the grander picture? So it's almost like Christianity without the Dominion Mandate or the Great Commission. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I think, too, it's also just, once again, going back to ambition in a sense, like, we're just going to fix this one little area. And if we can just fix all the little areas, but we don't realize that it's a much bigger problem. So it's like what people always talk about. A lot of people now are like blame so many things on feminism.
Yep.
Or blame so many things on the Jews.
But there were so many things that brought feminism into play.
Like the big thing with feminism is that feminism is an idea without God.
Yep.
And that's why you don't like what's popped up in the cultures, because it's a culture that avoids God like the plague.
It's a pagan worldview.
So yes, exactly. So and he brought up someone's book, and I'm forgetting the title of the book. Anyway, so the idea is that this he was commenting that the author had pointed out some helpful things to align with what Chesterton was saying, but then he also had bought into the modern thinking in the sense that you're going to talk about what makes a good parent, but we're stuck on this one avenue. And so without talking about what makes, he brought up the idea of what makes a good saint or what makes a hero. And so it's like someone asking, so what's the purpose of a hammer? And it's, well, to make more hammers. And those hammers, what's the purpose of those? To make more hammers. And he's like,
great, now we have a pile of hammers.
But you've missed the art of carpentry. So you're fixed on this one aspect.
Yeah.
And I forget why I was saying this.
Talking about women and what they're bringing to the table.
Oh, yeah. So we get fixed with marriage or with women on this one aspect of, well, you can have children.
Yep.
Without asking, what is the purpose even just broadly of women and mankind? And the purpose then, if you're going to talk about what Chesterton was saying, you're going to tie it to something good. The purpose then, looking through a Christian worldview, is to glorify God and enjoy him forever.
To walk uprightly before God.
Yes.
To be a good Christian.
Yes. And so it's then when that's your goal, all the other little things get
fall
fixed.
into place.
Yes, they fall exact. So it's like taking a medicine, or like if you had some sort of, you keep getting injured and you're taking pain medicine for an injury that you just simply need to be working out to fix.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so just strengthening that muscle. So it's like you're fixing one aspect, but it's going to keep coming back up.
Yep.
And that's the thing. We focus on these we focus on these one avenues without asking what is the purpose of women in general. And it is to glorify God, enjoy him forever. Dominion. And so that's the overarching point of that's where the ambition then comes into play.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's spot on because, again, there's so much life that is lived apart from marriage. Now, there's a whole lot of life that is lived in the marriage realm, but there's a whole lot of life that, for some people, that happens without the spouse. And so you have to believe that then up until that point, and again, I think this goes back to where, some people have communicated that if you're not married, you're sinning. And you're like, well, no, hold the phone here. That's not actually biblical because God ordained, regardless of whether you, regardless of what age you get married, let's just say, you still can't procreate until a certain age. And some people even then can't still procreate. Is God still good? Does his mercy still endure forever? Is God actually sovereign over people who don't ever get married, who can't have kids? And the answer is absolutely he is. Otherwise, you're being completely heretical. And so then what happens is then you have to think through then, okay, so what then is the purpose of man? The purpose of man then can't be, the telos of man can't be then marriage. That can be a tool and an obedience in the process of the telos, of trying to achieve the telos, but it can't be the actual telos in and of itself.
And it kind of goes back to the idea of Kuyperianism and sphere sovereignty, that it's one extremely important aspect through which we can be obedient to God and fulfill the dominion mandate. But there are two other spheres that we have to look at that also require obedience. And so I think that's a good thing to point out because otherwise marriage becomes an idol. And then it ends up taking the glory away from marriage anyway, because it's something other than God. God said, you shall have no other idols before me. Mm-hmm. And so ultimately ends up destroying rather than helping.
Yep. So bringing it back full circle, what would you say then for people that say, okay, I hear you, the dominion mandate, the Great Commission, that should be our ambitious goal. What does that look like then for the average Christian woman that is looking to be ambitious but doesn't know where to start?
Yeah, I think for one, we were reading in our chronological Bible reading plan this morning in Proverbs, and I was thinking about, and I knew we were going to talk about ambition today, and we had done some research earlier in the week, and I was thinking about, let me pull it up real quick, hold on. I was thinking about this idea of ambition and kind of like things God calls us to, Yes. Proverbs 2. Let's start in verse 3. Yes, if you cry out for discernment and lift up your voice for understanding, if you seek her as silver and search for her as for hidden treasures, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. And I was thinking about how we're supposed to, and it says there to seek for her as in wisdom, right? Mm-hmm. And search for her as for hidden treasures, and that actually is a form of ambition in and of itself. Like if you think about what it would take to search out a treasure, mm-hmm. right? Or in the cases of for a guy, when you finally get the girl, right? You've sought after something, like Adam, like there's something that's missing here. And it's not because God's not good, but God creates helpers.
There's a hunger there for something else.
Exactly.
Something more.
And so the point is that you had to work to get there. And so I think that in and of itself, for no matter what age, that's something men and women are called to. It's an ambitious goal to seek after wisdom, and it is something we are called to. And to listen for when Lady Wisdom is crying out, like, it does take a form of ambition. But besides that, I would say just have seek to be a woman after, much like David was a man after God's own heart, a woman after God's own heart. Seek to gird yourself with strength and honor, and seek to, like Moses, or better yet, Christ even, seek to have God's name glorified and magnified in what you do. And I think what you said, Esther, honestly, it really is so helpful. Like, what are you skilled at? Are you really good at writing? Maybe you can write something to the next generation coming behind you, and you can, what you're learning in the Sunday sermons, maybe you then write these stories and things for the kids coming behind you to help also bring them up, right? And so I think there's plenty of ways that we can aid. Some people, are really good at using social media platform to bring reform. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's, no, God's calling me to be a florist. God's calling me to be a baker. And through that, I'm going to find ways to minister to people. And so I think, look at that. There is a great level, I think, of industriousness that God gives his people when they're seeking for his glory. Because it's like, you're part of taking dominion is that you have to look at all of these things. Law, art, music, literature, agriculture, like all of these different avenues we need Christians to take dominion in. Yep. And so I think there's plenty of ways that women can get involved. So find out what you're good at. It would be weird if we all did try to do the same thing. Like, if now it's like everyone's answer is go start a podcast. Everyone's answer is go be a seamstress. Like, that would be really weird. So find out. Now there's going to be overlap, I'm sure, but find out what you're good at and then just pray. Like, I know our mom has told us, and we'll tell her, Mom, how did you know what meal we needed today when we got home from work? Like, how did you know that? Like, how do you know when we needed a chocolate cake? Like, it's just what we needed today. How did you know? And she'll be like, well, this morning I prayed that God would show me how to best bless y'all. And so I think that's a good way of, like, much like you're talking about or when you're reading the Women's Ministry Yay or Nay article on the Peg and the Pen series. I think when you have the outward focus too, and you're seeking Christ first and foremost, and then blessing others, God answers that prayer.
Well, I mean, those are the two greatest commandments is, don't have any other idols before me, and love your neighbor as yourself. Who is not your neighbor?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even if you said, okay, well, so, and then it also says, love your enemies. And so everyone love others as yourself. And I think that's also a very important point to make, just really quick. I'm not going to get off on a tangent, hopefully here, but just really a quick side note. I think Lewis talked about this first. It is that when we think of love your neighbor as yourself, we think of love yourself less. And that's not actually what it means. It just means love other people like you love yourself. Do you want to make sure that you're comfortable? Like, just the basic things that bring you joy, the basic ways that you love yourself, love others the same way. Like, just think of yourself less, right? It doesn't mean you have to loathe yourself. Just think of yourself less. Yeah. And so just really quick.
You don't think less of yourself. You just think of yourself less.
Yes. And so if you do those two things day in and day out, then the Lord will show you, like, if you're honestly seeking to walk uprightly. That's been one thing we've been reading through the Psalms, and I keep saying where it's like, walk uprightly and the Lord will do this, walk uprightly and the Lord will do this. And so it's and so it really has showed me, just like what we were talking about earlier, just obey God, do what God's word says, seek to apply it. He is the King of wisdom. He is all wisdom. He is completely good. And so do what he says, and all the rest will fall into place. Don't worry about all the extra things, because you don't know what the future holds. And that actually, as women, if we do have that kind of mindset, then that really is the Proverbs 31 woman. She can laugh at the future, is because you're trusting in God so much that you know and you believe that if I walk uprightly, God will bless me. And the blessing may look different than so-and-so over there, and she's got a thriving business and I'm over here and the blessing looks completely different. You know what I mean? It may be that the blessing looks like you found out you were pregnant again. You know what I mean? Or the blessing looks like that, you got fired from your job here, but then the Lord had a whole nother job plan that you didn't even realize. And so you have to just trust in the Lord. And that has happened to you and I before. That's actually kind of where this podcast got started. It was, we ended up getting fired from a job. And and it was, you trust in the Lord in that moment. And especially because we got fired for a good thing. We got fired for standing on truth. And so then you get fired, and then you, and I'm not saying that to sing our praises. I'm just saying this is talking about the ways that blessings can look, is then you actually just to sing the praises of the Lord, is that then you get fired, but then you say, I'm going to trust in the Lord because he will take care of me because I got fired for a good reason. And then the podcast sprung out of that. And we've been enormously blessed by that. But we didn't know in the moment what that was going to look like. We didn't know what to do the next time. And so it was like, okay, so now I'm out of a job. What do I do now? Yeah. And so then you just trust in the Lord. And you honestly laugh at the future. And people ask, what's going to happen next? And you're like, I have no idea.
And honestly, I feel like, too,
the Lord's going to take care of it.
It tends to be, like, you can, of course, looking back, see the seeds God had planted, like, oh, well, that's why I had an interest in such and such, or that's why at this event this probably happened. You can begin to see seeds God planted of, like, this now sprung into, when we lost our job, why we started the podcast or whatever. And so I feel like, though, God loves kind of the side wind. Yes. You know what I mean? And so it's like the things that come out of left field that you wouldn't have thought, like, Lord, you're calling me to what? You know what I mean?
I beg your pardon.
Yeah, and so, but it ends up, like, God in his grace, and I feel like, too, probably God in his sense of humor, ends up blessing things that you're like, I never would have imagined this.
I was reading Paralandra, and there was a wonderful line where Dr. Ransom is sitting down with Lewis, and Dr. Ransom is getting called to go to, I think it was Venus. And there's the Oyarsa is, I think I'm pronouncing that right, calling him to go to Venus because there's going to be an attack there and against the principalities and powers. And so, Ransom's going there to fight the principalities and powers. And Lewis is objecting, kind of like, you're just going to go there? Like, do you know what you're going to do there? And Dr. Ransom replies, no. And he's like, I can see that you're questioning, Lewis, my decisions here of being willing to go blindly into this. And it's funny because he talked about that in the Bible, it's the ordinary people that are called to fight against the principalities and powers. And we don't know what that fight's going to look like. And he even talked about how he wouldn't have picked himself. He's not saying he's a special person for being chosen for this mission. But he said, but if you come to think of it, oftentimes people aren't actually called to missions that they would have put themselves in. Like, they weren't actually, the job that they were given was not the job they would have picked for themselves based off of their skill sets. And the beauty in that is that you can't take any glory for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it honestly goes back to, it's the truly ambitious move because it was completely for God's glory. And God's going to do exactly what he planned to do. And we don't know what the Lord will have in store. And we don't know all of the reasons why he does what he does. We don't know why he places certain people in our lives. And sometimes he gives you the grace to be able to look back and see, oh, I can connect the dots now. I see what the Lord was doing. But in the moment, you didn't know. You had no idea. And that's how God works. And I think it's lovely. I think it's, if I knew what was going to happen tomorrow, then what would my day be filled with? What was happening tomorrow? Yeah. And so, but the Lord doesn't operate that way. He gives you grace in the moment for today. And our job is to fulfill the Great Commission and the Dominion mandate in the now, in the moment, right here, right now, to do the right thing, to obey God, to ask for his grace, and let God do the rest.
And I think I heard this recently. And I thought it was really great. And I'll just put a bit of a different spin on it for sake of what we're talking about, which is ambition today. And you, as a person, individually, are one instrument in the sheet music that God has ordained, right? So he's the director. He created the sheet music, right? He's created the pattern, and he knows exactly how everything ought to be, right? To make it sound the most beautiful, to make this orchestra of all these different types of people and all these different instruments come together and sound amazing, right? And so
your sheet music looks different.
Yeah, And so there's going to be little differences here and there. Some people are going to do melody and some people are going to do harmony. And so it's going to be different for everyone. There's going to be little differences here and there. So you may have a family of violins over here and a couple people on the piano, you know what I mean? But it's going to come together.
Somebody
and it's going
with
to
the
be
cymbals
marvelous.
comes in with a bang.
Yeah.
And then goes out.
And yeah, exactly. And so but you just you don't need to be focused though on what everyone else is doing. You need to be focused on, I've been given the piano to play, and so I am going to play it to the best of my abilities before God. This is obedience right here. So this seems a bit off to me. It seems a bit weird, but I don't have the big picture yet.
And don't look over at what John's trajectory looks like.
Yeah, are you focus on
your
all
trajectory.
the notes in front of you are your obedience. So focus on those, and that is your mission. That's part of, you take dominion, you glorify God by doing that to the best of your abilities, by seeking to play it, as a Christian better than anyone else would have done it. And so do enjoy it, you know what I mean? Like, take joy in the part you've been playing.
The point is to play.
Yeah.
The point is to play and enjoy and to glorify God by playing an instrument, but then playing the instrument skillfully. So play the instrument skillfully, strive to be the best piano player, the best trumpeter, the best whatever piece you have in the orchestra. Try to be the best at it, but don't forget that the purpose is to make a joyful noise and to play like you are supposed to be, but the play to then ultimately glorify God. But don't forget that playing is a very important piece to that, and so do it with joy.
Yeah, enjoy.
Yep. If you suck the soul out of it and you just say, well, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna be the best piano player that there ever was with no mistakes, and I'm going to play so critically, and you know what I mean? And then it's like, okay, we've just sucked all the joy out of it, and now you're not actually making a joyful noise.
And just be focused on what God has placed in front of you. Like, you don't need to be telling the violinist over there, George, that George is playing his violin the wrong way. Like, you're not, George is not your concern.
Yep.
The concern is your sheet music in front of you. And so just be focused on what God has placed in front of you, not what everyone else is doing. You don't need to seek to police everyone else is playing. No. That's not your job.
Yep. You're not the conductor.
Yep.
Let the conductor do the conductor's work.
Yep.
Because he's the best at it. Because he's the conductor.
And he knows how to make sure everyone else plays their part so everything sounds beautiful.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. So, be ambitious. And like Lennox says, only the truly humble can be ambitious.
But once again, the humble attitude comes back, Lord, show me more of your glory. Mm-hmm. And then enable me to show others more of your glory. Like, this is awesome.
Yep. It's not so you can have your name in lights.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, wouldn't it would be great, this is on the exhortation I was listening to, wouldn't it be great if you through your faithfulness and your ambition of really just seeking God's glory on the earth more and more, that your name is known? Like, God tends to bless people through those. Like, why do we know Martin Luther's name? Why do we know John Calvin's name? You know what I mean? And so, but
I guarantee you they didn't know that was what was actually going to happen.
Exactly. It's like, here's something in front of me that I'm called to obedience in, that I'm called to take dominion in, that I'm called to charge the gates of hell in. And so I'm doing it not so that I'm known, hundreds of years from now, but
it's like it reminds me of the worker in the Wizard of Oz. I forgot which one it was. And he said, someday they're going to make a statue out of me. And then the lady was like, well, don't start posing for it now.
Oh, yeah. Who did he end up being?
Tin Man.
Was it Tin Man?
Yeah, because he was a statue.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But the point is I think that, well, if you're just daydreaming about that someday they're going to make a statue out of you, first of all, that's for your own glory, so that's a sin.
Yeah.
And second of all, you're not actually doing anything now. You're just daydreaming. That's not ambitious. That's not ambition. You're dreaming about being ambitious, but don't be satisfied with just the dreams of being ambitious.
Yeah, and it's not ambition just to call things out. It's, once again, what are you actually doing? Mm-hmm. And it's not enough just to have knowledge. It's what are you going to do with that knowledge? So I think we could use a whole lot more of that. There's plenty of people now calling out problems without actually doing anything.
Yeah. Well, and it takes time. Again, going back to in thinking of a lot of people, what I kept hearing was people that have actually done something or have accomplished great things. They would oftentimes, what you'll hear them say is, I sacrificed here when all of my peers were doing this, hanging out together. I was doing this. And so I was saying no to certain pleasures because I knew that I had a duty to accomplish. And then those are the people that actually go and shape culture and change culture for the better because they weren't content with being mediocre. So don't be a mediocre Christian.
Yeah, because it's an interesting dynamic of I think part of it comes down to as well, just the denying yourself, taking up your cross daily and following Christ. And so, but then yet in that, going back, you do deny, I guess, certain worldly pleasures, but then it's also not a joyless ride.
Yep.
God puts plenty of things throughout. For one, you're called to rejoice always. For two, God, through obedience, I think blesses his people with so many ways to yet have fun.
Yeah.
Through it, it's not just oh, I'm a slave to Christ now, and I gotta go be obedient.
Yeah.
To go build some culture.
Well, and I think again that would just be, if people believe that, then I would say, well, that's not true because even the Lord has given us one whole day to rest. Even still,
that is so true.
So He's given you 6 days where He expects you to work extremely hard. But and I think the thing would be, make sure you earn that day off.
That's a great point, Esther. That is a great point. Yeah.
Praise God. I think that, no, honestly, and view death as our perpetual Sabbath. Death is when retirement kicks in.
Yeah.
But not really, because we'll still work in heaven. But it'll just be without all the thorns and thistles.
Yeah, it'll be a return to work that was instituted before the fall.
Yep. So, but yeah, we weren't called to this earth to just kick back and enjoy.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
If I could just make it to where, I'm watching my favorite show at the end of every day at 8:00, then I'm a happy camper.
Yeah.
Done. Checklist accomplished. Who was it? Somebody did tell me, and I know we need to wrap this up, but somebody did tell me, and I forgot who it was now. If you can check off your checklist every day and get everything accomplished that's on your list, you're not doing enough.
I'm pretty sure that was our Father.
Probably was. Anyway, that's a word of wisdom, I think, because there should be you should never feel like the work is done completely for all of life. Obviously,
yeah.
you need to accomplish a project, get the project done, have a checklist of this particular project. But if you feel like you can kick back because all of your work is done, you're not striving for enough.
Yeah. I think that's the point, though, then tying it back to when you have the mindset of it's something much bigger than you.
Yep.
Then, of course, it's never actually going to be done. And, it's not even going to be done in one generation. Full dominion for us isn't, going to be completely accomplished by the time I'm dead. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's a generational thing. And so that's also important, I think. Once again, thinking too, will my grandchildren, great-grandchildren, like you were talking about earlier in the beginning, know the Lord?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. Well, we have thoroughly waxed eloquent, so we should wrap it up.
We should wrap it up because we got things to do.
Yeah.
Speaking of checklists.
Lots of things to do.
All right. Until next time, ladies, keep pursuing feminine glory, and we will see you on the next episode of the Feminine Glory Podcast. Bye.
Bye.
Well, everyone, this is the everyone's favorite part of the podcast, where we ask you to like and subscribe our videos because YouTube likes us to. So we're doing it. And
yeah.
Apple Podcasts likes us too. Wherever you find our channel, they like us to ask you to like and subscribe. So we're doing it.
So if you are in favor, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Or, you don't have to.
You can just walk away.
And we won't be offended.
Nope. If you don't like us, just walk away. Don't feel like you need to say anything. Don't feel like you need to explain yourself. Let's just do a clean breakup. You go walk away. And you don't ever have to listen to us again. So there you go.
So if you feel so obliged,
yep,
you can like it, you can subscribe, or you can go on your merry way.
Yep. Either way, the choice is up to you. 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood.
Will you take the one less traveled by?
Will it make all the difference? Whether you listen to us or not. Anyway, there you go. There's our little bit that we had to say to subscribe.
All right.
So thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.